you managed to complete that task in terms of completing a risk assessment, and hopefully this session has given you a little bit more of an insight into managing and looking at risk management within a sporting sector. We're now going to look at some of the kind of key coaching or key issues in sports coaching relating to risk management. So the first area to look at is identifying specific hazards in sports coaches are exposed to. So it might be you'll be in a scenario where you're in a competitive facility that you're not used to. So how do you manage that risk? Is that your responsibility? The decisions on athletes and development and progress. So again, do you have the knowledge and understanding within your sector and your coaching to be able to make those decisions? If not, do you need to upskill? Procedures for monitoring other coaches. So are there procedures for, if you're in an environment where other people are working with you, how do you monitor that? Revalidating qualifications. It's important to be always up to date with regulations and standards within the sporting sector. Responsibility to check the athletes. So again, it's having communication and discussions with athletes and performers to make sure they're fit and healthy to perform. And then again, looking at kind of the travel and developing understanding of the game, what and post, what your responsibilities are. And ultimately it's about developing a coach-athlete relationship to ensure that you're working together with the parents to ensure that all performers are safe at all times. So in order to kind of improve and develop coaching in terms of reducing risks, I guess some of the key considerations that need to be ensured or developed, whether you're developing standards for your club or community sector or within your role or job, or for the future, these are some of the stuff that we need to be thinking about. Is better coach education systems where we're making sure all our volunteers and coaches understand the concept of risk management and dealing with it. Continual professional development. So once you've trained, you're not just left there. You continue developing your coaching and your understanding of this area. Reviewing licensing and structuring coaching awards to make sure we include some of this content. Ensuring we have codes of ethics and conduct. Making sure that we have safety checks for equipment, and then maybe some classification of an environment that a coach can work in and operate in. So we're not, mismatching coaches to, if they're, a novice new coach, we're not going to put them in a complex, difficult, risk-threatening environment. Having clear policies and procedures, and then having, risk assessments and assessing risk for all particular situations and ventures that you're involved in. So that's what we've looked at in terms of, what needs to be further developed and in a coaching context to ensure that everyone's at the correct standards. The other area to consider is, if you're employing people as coaches, so to also consider these things to make sure they're appropriate and fully trained for your environment. So the age of the coach, do they have an appropriate qualification? Is there a language barrier? The session plan and lesson provisions, references are taken up. And then obviously particular sports and particular settings, the sex of a coach for certain groups may not be appropriate, or you may need to put more than one person in there to maybe supervising that kind of situation. So creating safe organisations, it's around CPD, monitoring, educating coaches, and then having standards of codes of conduct, child protection, coaches charter, then linked with national governing body guidelines. And a lot of the stuff in relation to this in terms of managing risk is making sure that our kids are safe and children are safe, which leads on to the next session we're going to be looking at, which is safeguarding and protecting children. So in conclusion to this session, you need to be very aware of risk management in a coaching context. Know what you can and should be doing and what you can and can't do. Always think ahead of possible outcomes. And if in doubt, check and find out another way of doing things, and always conduct yourself in an ethical way, obviously, which we've looked at in the session on ethics. Here is some guidance in terms of risk management and kind of understanding, ethical procedures and processes.